Hey there, what's up? Welcome. My name is Azodi, and in this video I'm going to share with you how to create a solid groove and bass line for Girl Crush, which actually falls underneath the umbrella of K-pop. If you haven't already, check out the previous video in this series to help provide you with some context. The groove is the backbone to your song, and in Girl Crush, this is one of the key fundamental elements to get right from the start. Reason being is it's going to need choreography added to it later. So when writing and producing music in general, your energy is finite. It is a limited resource and it has a timer on it. You start off a track, it feels really exciting, and as it drags out longer and longer, it gets harder and harder to finish and wrap up the song, right? So with that in mind, I like to treat my productions with a focus on primary elements and secondary elements. You know, when you have all that energy and excitement for starting a new song, I like to use that energy to focus on the harder or primary elements such as groove, bass and hook, and then when the enthusiasm starts to peter out, focus on secondary elements such as, I don't know, horns, percussion, chords. Obviously this varies from song to song, but generally this is how I'd approach a Girl Crush track. But at the end of the day, it's whatever works for you. Generally, we want our groove to be hitting between about 80 to 125 BPM. And if we go over 125 BPM, generally we want to make it halftime. I went for 110 BPM and I started off with a basic kick and snare pattern. Once I got the basic pattern down for about 4 bars, I looped it and then I started to focus on the bass line. So currently at the moment in Girl Crush, we are hearing a lot of trap and house elements, and this dictated what presets and samples I chose for the kick, snare and bass. So for the kick, I used the FC01 GF Kick 2 SOR, which was included with Cubase, and the Trap Snare 5, which was also included. The 808 was actually taken from Anna 2. Sample and preset selection for your songs is something I unfortunately cannot teach you, and it generally comes with practice. So what I recommend you do to help this is to listen to your favorite Girl Crush tracks from the last year or 2 years and try and match the samples to what you're hearing in the productions. The main thing to remember with this is you won't get it perfect, but it's the process of trying to get it perfect is where you learn how to develop that judgment. As mentioned in the previous video before this one, you really need that 808 and kick to lock in. This is a key element to building groove, and this is where I started. I'm hearing that bass lines are hanging in the verse on the root chord of this scale with very minimal movements between chords. Then, once it hits the pre-chorus, it opens up and we introduce more chords and more movement in that way. So I created a bass line that I could remember and hum easily. I actually treat the bass line much like a hook in its own right. So as you can see here, I structured the bass line in an ABAC format. Definitely check out my previous Cubase video, 5 tips for creating a K-pop hook, as this explains this approach in more detail. It's also pretty common to jump in and out of key with the occasional note. So So one writing trait of Girl Crush and K-pop in general is to create very clearly defined sections. We want to do this as each idol group have different members with their own roles and responsibility in the group. For example, we have the lead singer, we have the lead dancer, and we'd have a rapper. And as the producer, songwriter, we need to cater for that. This is another thing that the A&Rs are listening out for when they hear your track. They want to be able to imagine the track with a new music video and how it's all going to be shot and how their members are going to play a part in all of that. On the other ends, we don't want to go so far it feels like a brand new genre within a song, although that did used to be popular quite a few years ago. But what we do want to do is make it clear enough and apparent enough to the listener that there has been a significant shift in the music. The main thing I did for the drums was actually to strip all of it back and bring the energy down. Then what I did, as you can see, is I added a double time clap from Cubase's Trap Clap 1. Since we had quite a punchy sort of 808 in the verse, I kind of wanted to counter that and do something different with the bass preset. It's not just the preset, but it's also the way that I play the bass that is different as well. So as you can see, I chose the Halion sub-boom bass and played it in a way that was longer and more drawn out and different from those sort of punchy, almost staccato-like 808 notes in the verse. I find generally this is a good way to make it apparent to the listener there has been a significant change in the music. Then finally, for the groove and bass, I reintroduced the verse idea, but with development and subtle new ideas to help lift the chorus up. So as you can see here, there have been a few new subtle elements added, extra kicks, open hi-hat pattern, tambourine. I have structured the chorus in an ABAC format. The reason I added a B chorus was to kind of mix it up. So what I did is added some brand new chords. But in the same way that we did it in the pre-chorus, I wrote the chords first and they predetermined where the bass was going to go. When adding these elements in the chorus, it's always really important to keep the groove in the back of your mind. You don't want to overproduce / overcomplicate it, as it may take away from that feeling. I was really bad for overproducing my tracks, and I feel primarily it was down to low self-esteem. I used to think that if I add way more elements in the chorus is just going to sound much bigger, much wider and hit harder, but actually it kind of did the opposite, in all honesty. It ended up making it sound a lot more chaotic, messy, and you lose the groove and feeling. And what I'm finding now is that doing less and making those key elements breathe in the chorus, it makes it sound much bigger. And don't forget, we've already spent a fair bit of energy building out that verse idea. I would say move on, focus on the other key elements, and then come back to it later if you really feel it needs it. And there you have it, how I write a solid groove and bass line for a Girl Crush track. And in the next video of this series, we're going to dive into refining the extra elements and all that kind of extra sauce needed to make the production really stand out. If you are a singer who is inspired by that K-pop sound and would like that sound for your own music, hit me up via the website link below and we can talk. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you learned something cool. And if you would like more tutorials like this one, hit the subscribe button to Cubase's channel.